So welcome to Powerhouse Experts, episode 41. Our guest today is a certified fraud examiner, private investigator, and pink collar crime expert.
Wow.
So while working at a financial services firm, a client was arrested, not our client. That would be interesting.
Client. You should have said, I should have been introducing this, and I should have said my co-host was arrested, but...
Okay. A client was arrested on fraud charges. This ended up leading our guest to a new, much more exciting career as a special agent for U.S. Customs.
What?
If I'd have met her earlier, Stormie, we could have had her keep you outside of the country, huh?
Well, they're still trying to track me down, so.
Right. So she specializes in white-collar crime, narcotics, and undercover operations. Oh, my God. This is a true baller we have today.
Yeah, this is like a spy novel, isn't it?
I've never been called that. Oh, my God.
You are like awesome. So without any further ado, welcome. We would love to welcome Kelly Paxton.
Yes.
To the Powerhouse Experts show today. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Oh my gosh, I am so happy to be here. And I just want to say, you know how this happened was Stormie and I were standing in line getting coffee at the NSA Influence, and we just started talking. And I had planned to go to another session, but by the end of me ordering coffee, I was like, forget that, I'm going to Stormie's session. And I was so glad I did. I even got one of the little chips that you threw out.
What value did you get?
$1,000.
$1,000 casino chip. How about that?
Yeah.
If I were
Even
you,
though I don't gamble, and you guys are going to find out why I don't gamble.
So you're a fraud expert. So I'm going to tell you this: if you can't cash that, if he doesn't make that $1,000 good, I put a case against him. I'm just saying.
I wouldn't use that chip. I wouldn't use it at a casino.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You have a really impressive past here, or impressive work history. And I think, Stormie, you were saying earlier, coming from a financial background. You were mentioning something about her working at a bank or something. Is that correct, Kelly? Did you work at a bank?
Yeah, I started my career. I grew up, my dad was a commodities trader.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So I started my career at the Chicago Board of Trade, and I did what, I thought I was supposed to do. I was supposed to go into finance. And you know what? I'm not a good salesperson. I don't like to do that. So eventually, I got a phone call, and they're like, do you know Alan Taylor? This is all public record. I'm not, breaking any confidences. And I was in my, mid to late 20s, and I kind of giggled, and I'm like, is that what we call him today? And she's like, ooh. And they ended up sending a subpoena, but back then we didn't have to know where customers' money came from. So of course we told him, hey, someone's snooping around, and the money was gone. But I still, a year and a half later, my now husband was like, just call her up. And I will tell you, the best things that have happened to me have been from me picking up the phone, talking to someone in line at Starbucks like Stormie, sending out an email. And next thing you know, I'm in Georgia shooting guns. And I became a special agent.
Really?
And it was a blast. I had never touched a gun in my life. We are not a gun family. And I got to drive fast cars and not shoot people, but I had the ability to shoot people. And it was like it was like being on a field trip every day, doing surveillance and getting people's bank accounts and putting people in jail. It was like I was in jail.
Wow.
That's so cool. You know what? I bring guns into work every day. See my guns right here? There it is.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. We're really going to do this today?
That's for the folks on video. I just wanted to show that I pulled out my guns.
Even she had to laugh there, and she didn't mean to. But look at her face; she's just red, right? Really. So for those not watching us on Facebook or YouTube, that was Stormie showing his little pistols that he calls his muscles. That's what those were. So now, from you started off this career, you got this phone call, and it led to this wonderful life. Now, how did this transition happen? I mean, because mentally something has to happen, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely.
For someone that I'm a gun person. I mean, just in all honesty, I am a gun person. I've always had a license to carry, and I believe in having guns in a household. So I can't imagine someone who didn't have that mindset going into the life that you're in now.
Oh my gosh, my dad passed away about 1.5 years ago, and
Oh,
we
I'm
had
sorry to
clean
hear
out.
that.
Oh, right. Yeah, he had a very good life, but we had to clean out his condo, and he had a lot of cards I sent when I was at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and as I'm like, tears are dropping down my eyes, I wrote him a letter. I was in a ditch today shooting a submachine gun. It was so much fun, Dad. And I'm like, I'm sure my dad had several vodka martinis that night because this was his little girl. And here she is, like, in full camos shooting, large weapons. And I do like to shoot, but, it's fun and you see progress and everything like that. But they had to actually interview my dad for my background check because I worked for him for over 1 year. So that was one of the rules. Generally, they don't. They interviewed my dad. And the funny thing is, the guy who interviewed him, retired FBI agent, my dad used to play liar's poker against him in the bar. And my dad, I know, it's crazy. And my dad calls me, I'm waiting on the background clearance, and he goes, yeah, some guy showed up this morning at 8:00 asking about you. And it turns out I used to take money off of him every Friday. And I'm like, Dad, I'm never going to get the job. But I got it.
Wow.
So, but my dad would tell you, I've always been very curious. He didn't say curious. He said Snoopy.
Snoopy.
Yeah. Money is what makes the world go round as it is. And how people spend money it's just fascinating to me. You give me someone's checkbook and I can tell you their values. I can tell you what they believe in, how they live. I mean, I used to get subpoena bank records. My group supervisor would come into my office and I'd be on the floor with boxes of bank records. And it was like me at Christmas. Like, honestly, it was me at Christmas because money tells a story. So my career, even though I've gone from finance to a special agent to a fraud analyst to now the pink collar crime expert, it's always been about people and how they spend money and how they steal money.
Oh,
wow.
That's
how
an
they
interesting
spend money
point.
and how they steal money. Those two come together. I'm going to learn a lot about Deborah on this episode.
Yeah. You got to watch out for people like me that spend the kind of money that I spend at Starbucks, and then I roll on over to Ross Dress for Less. Whoa, you got to watch people like me, right,
Absolutely.
Kelly?
Okay, so just quick question. I'm going to ask, and maybe you guys don't want to answer this. What kind of cars do you drive?
Oh, it's about to get good.
It's
Yes.
about to get good here because I just got a new car.
Yes, he did.
And I'm excited. Anytime I
it's a
can.
parking lot audit.
It's a parking lot audit.
When you have employees,
Guess
does
them-
their car match their salary?
Guess what? Guess what he drives?
It's the Model 3. It's the small Tesla.
Okay, I'm good with that. If you said Range Rover, I might have to end the interview right now.
Well, me, I'm good because I like older cars, classics. So I drive a 95 Honda Del Sol. It's sexy.
Oh, see, I have a little Honda Civic Hybrid.
Oh, okay. There you go. See, you understand. We're speaking the same language here. So one of the questions, here's a question.
Wait, I got to find out. So I'm going to go back to this test because I think that's pretty cool and interesting. So I drive an electric car.
That's good.
Oh, okay. See?
Yeah, that's good.
It's really
And
fast,
you're
too.
the boss. You know what? You're the boss. I just did a presentation this week for a local Rotary, and I was talking to the guy afterwards. And he told me when he was in the military in Germany, he was like one of the high-up people. He pulls into this meeting, and he sees that the car next to him is like the Mercedes 600 class. The really top of the line.
Okay.
He goes inside, and he goes, "Hey, whose car is that?" And everyone's like, and I don't know the whole military thing, but it was a lower level enlisted guy who's driving a car that's 4 times his salary. Now, it turns out he wasn't stealing from the military, but he had a side hustle that wasn't totally legit.
Wow, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, just look out the window at your employees, and if they're driving a car that doesn't match their salary, you might want to be a little bit curious.
Now, here that could actually happen, and here's the reason why that could happen, Kelly, with us or with Stormie and his partner Daryl, is because they know and they kind of encourage and help their team members who have side hustles. So this is kind of the gig nation. They don't mind that there is a content creator who has her own business, or a graphic designer who has her own business, or like me, I started off as part of the startup team and I went off on my own. But as I was starting, before I went off on my own, they knew that I was building this. And Stormie hates to admit it, but he was actually one of my biggest cheerleaders.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
Rah, rah, rah. Yeah, you were. So let me ask you this. Pink collar. Pink collar indicates
pink collar
to me.
Criminal.
Yeah, pink collar indicates to me women, though.
Okay.
So I wouldn't think that.
So I use a lot of hashtags. I'm kind of known as the fraud hashtag queen.
The fraud.
One of them is it's position, not gender.
Okay.
It just happens to be that women are in those types of positions that have access. So pink collar crime, I didn't make the term up. People far smarter than me, criminologists, professors, made the term up. And it's lower level employees in the workplace who steal from the workplace. But it's also kind of just garden variety embezzlement. So you could have a CEO who embezzles, and I still would probably refer to him as a pink collar criminal. So it's kind of the offense, not the offender.
Okay.
It's just women are kind of in those lower level positions, accounts receivable, accounts payable, office manager. So you guys go to a dentist, I assume, and 60% of all dentists get ripped off. So next time you go to your dentist, after he's put his hand in your mouth, because you don't want to ask
once he's finished,
say, so have you been ripped off? And if he gets this look like, how did you know? It's just statistically dentists get hit hard.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Dentists don't become dentists to play with Excel or pivot tables. They become dentists because they like to inflict pain. So, they don't really pay attention. They make a good living. And are they going to miss 5, 10, 15? I had a dentist $1 million over 10 years.
Come on.
Yeah. Nicest guy ever. She had a raging gambling habit.
Wow.
Interesting. You mentioned something earlier that you don't gamble. And,
no, it's my line in the sand.
It's the line in the So why is that? What you've probably seen gambling lead to. I would imagine in your world, a lot of people are embezzling and stealing from their company. It goes back to gambling.
Yeah. It's just, I've had too many people do that. I had a woman who she stole twice. The second time she stole, she got caught. She got caught the first time. She gets caught the second time. She tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
Wow.
I joke I have no employees. So but if I did have an employee and I got through the hiring process, and at the end, and I thought I liked him, I'd say, so I'm going to Vegas this weekend. And if their eyes light up, interview over, done. I want someone as boring and as thrifty as possible who's working for me.
Well, you know what? Boring is Deborah. The other two, I don't know.
I'm thrifty. I am so thrifty. I am like thrifty to the nth degree. So we can hang out any day and time. And I don't gamble. I'm not a drinker. Never been drunk in my life. And that's kind of funny because based upon my personality, you would think all of those things, but it's none of them. I was just born with these crazy genes.
Yeah.
Well, then it's not the change in personality. So that's another thing. If you have an employee and you see a radical change in their personality, you might want to kind of just start listening a little more carefully.
So what you're saying is don't start being nice to Stormie. That's what you're saying. So that's what she's saying,
interesting,
Stormie.
though.
Don't be nice to you.
But, you just brought up, as a business owner, going back to what you said, because that's something I never thought of. So if you have an employee that just has a radical, or when you say a dramatic change to their personality, What do you mean by that? Like if they get quiet all of a sudden or more talkative or just any type of change whatsoever?
Yeah. So say that, they're just your average regular employee and all of a sudden, they just kind of shut down.
Okay.
Maybe they're having terrible personal problems. A spouse has left them, a child is sick, and obviously you care about your employees.
Right.
So, and you don't want to, interfere too much, but also at the same time, say you have a really quiet employee and all of a sudden they're talking about going to the casino and they bought the new car and, they come in like, Prada bags. That's a pretty big change.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then what does an employer do? They see these changes happening and they have suspicions, but or maybe they don't even have suspicions. They're like, oh, these are some interesting changes because there's no way this person would do me this way because we're like a family.
Or we are family.
Yeah. Okay. Another hashtag. Trust is not an internal control. Like it's just not. So, it's hard because I go to sleep every night with Google alerts on embezzlement. So I go to bed dreaming about embezzlers, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I know. It's crazy. But it's because I'm scheduling tweets for the next day or the next couple of days. So, but like, there was one guy somewhat locally. He looked out the window one day and his administrative assistant came in the parking lot and she had a brand new Cadillac Escalade. And he's like, I know what I pay her. And then he starts listening to her and she starts talking about horses. Now,
horses.
He's like, yeah, horses.
Okay.
Like, horses are expensive.
Expensive, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very expensive, yes.
So he starts snooping around and $800,000 she had stolen from him personally, not his business. If she'd stolen from the business, it would have been covered by insurance, but it was personal. And it literally took him looking out the window and seeing, God, new Escalade, and she's talking about horses, and I know what I pay her, and it was kind of a small town, so he knew what her husband kind of sort of made.
Right.
And he said it just didn't make sense.
Wow.
How do you embezzle $800,000 personally? Well, I mean,
don't give Deborah any tips. Don't give her any tips.
Let me borrow your wallet.
All over. And depending on the audience, when I do the presentations for auditors or fraud examiners, I show them how it's done, vaguely with a chart of, the most typical ways. But say I'm doing it for a bunch of office administrators for a local fire service, which I've done. I don't show them that chart. Because then they're going to go, oh, all I have to do is like forge some checks or,
Oh, right.
So,
right.
Depending on my audience is kind of what I teach. So if I go and teach a bunch of dentists and it's just dentists, I can show how it's done. But say I'm teaching dental practices, I won't say how often it's done via, debit card, cash skimming, unauthorized checks, things like that.
Right.
So my content kind of varies on who I'm talking to.
Interesting.
That is very interesting. And you do a lot of now, do you go out and teach this? You said to dentists, do you go out and teach this so that business owners will be more prepared?
Absolutely. And you know what? To stop embezzlement, it's not other hashtag. It's not rocket science. Embezzlement is not rocket science.
Okay.
Like the money isn't here and it doesn't go to Panama and then Liechtenstein and then back through cryptocurrency. The money
Cryptocurrency?
I know. When they start embezzling cryptocurrency, I'm done. I'm out of the business. It's too complicated for me.
Yes.
So, but the money goes from the business to the suspect. And it's really not complicated. I'm not a CPA. I know enough about accounting to be dangerous. I can play in QuickBooks. I can play in Excel and play in pivot tables. But this isn't complicated. It's just, it's not. It's money going from one place to the next. And it really doesn't stop in between.
Interesting. Wow.
Now, I do know someone that I don't know if she was the office manager or what she was, but she was embezzling, and she embezzled a huge amount of money. And how they found out, it was they were kind of going in and they had an auditor coming in to audit everything because they were, I don't know if they were doing a loan or something that they were doing within the business. So this audit was happening, and she was kind of, not wanting to give up the books. And
Ooh, yeah.
so the day that this was happening, and I don't know if there was some warning signs here, but the day that this was supposed to happen, he got a call saying she had just committed suicide.
Wow.
And she left a note apologizing, telling him everything that had happened, but she committed suicide the day that it was like, okay, we're coming in today. The auditor will be here this afternoon.
So that technically is a red collar crime, and that's a whole other thing. So there's a couple of people who specialize in red collar crime, but when a financial crime like that ends up in suicide or murder, then it's called a red collar crime. There's also gray collar crime. It's when older people commit crime. So there's a rainbow of crimes out there. But yeah, I mean, that's terribly sad. And actually, I'm a victim of pink collar crime and red collar crime because we own a home that sits on a water district, and the water district was ripped off. And when they found out, they did a terrible job of the investigation. And they let the woman still have access to the system. She blew everything up, like literally all their records are gone.
Oh my.
And she committed suicide. And I talked to someone who's familiar with the case, and I said, how are the employees doing, her coworkers? Have they brought in a counselor? And she said no. And I'm like, can you imagine working side by side with someone? She was a long-term trusted employee, and they commit suicide for stealing. How do the coworkers feel? They're devastated.
Right.
Yes.
So it's, I try and make fraud fun as we can make fraud, but it is really serious. I mean, because people's lives, these are people who have never, quote, so much as had a parking ticket. They commit a crime, they get caught, and, they look like us, and they're like, I can't go to prison.
Right.
Yeah.
You said something interesting just a second ago. I think that'd be an interesting title for a book for you, Make Fraud Fun.
Ooh. Okay. I have written a book. It's in the editing stages, but I'm really having a rough time with the title because I use the Catch Me If You Can, Today's Pink Collar Criminal. It's kind of play on Frank Abagnale.
Right.
But, with Amazon, no one's going to find it.
Right.
So I need like a title that people will find. So
I'm just thinking if I came across a book that said Make Fraud Fun, I'd be like, wait a second, I've got to read the foreword. What is this book about? That would be pretty interesting.
What did we put on the on the as we were listing the show? We put is there a pink collar criminal lurking in your organization?
Right.
Yeah, I have a colleague who has a book called The Thief in Your Company.
Okay.
But I really don't like the title.
Right.
Because if I say thief, what do you think about?
Yeah, I think that they're, a thief. I think of, the classic image of the thief lurking around the company and stealing computers and all sorts of inventory and stuff like that. Not necessarily money.
These people they look like you and me. So when I was a customs special agent, I arrested bad guys. I was armed, I drove fast cars, bad guys. I did get an attorney disbarred, and she was a woman.
Wow.
And that was like the best, that was the highlight of my career.
Wow.
Getting an attorney disbarred and sent to prison. Can you get any better than that?
Right.
That's an ideal Smeo moment.
Yeah. But then when I go to the local sheriff's office and become their fraud analyst, and literally that's how pink collar crime got started, was all my suspects, but the exception of one, were women. And I Googled women embezzlers, and that's how I came to the term pink collar crime. And then I got the domain name, and the rest is history.
That domain name is always a good deal.
Absolutely. So I've got to, so this is a serious question for you. In all your years in law enforcement, have you ever come across Deborah?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm good like that.
I was just curious. No offense. I was just putting that out there.
Yeah, I keep under the radar. So his joke here is that every time he has an opportunity, he wants to talk about me in the penitentiary. So that tells you that he's 195 years old because nobody says penitentiary unless you're watching Jane Kennedy on the movie Penitentiary, okay?
Is there another name?
Yeah, no, there is. It's a prison, Stormie.
Oh, prison. That's okay.
So that's his big thing. So when he found out you were coming on the show, Kelly, he was super excited. He was like, yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to get a chance to figure you out because I know there's something back there. I'm like, you're an idiot. That's what they do. Like I said, if they can get me on my Starbucks spending, then hey.
Well, I already know if my wife was on the show, she's guilty because she's guilty of everything you've said so far. She steals from me all the time. If I bring something home and she's blatant about it, she just takes it.
It's not stealing then.
Oh, no, that's stealing. I want it back and she won't give it back. So that's stealing.
So there's a rule, and it's like my little rule, 2 to 6 times. So say you have a business and you get ripped off.
Okay.
And they're going to confess unless they're a serial embezzler. Generally, if they haven't been caught and they get caught, they're going to confess.
They're going to confess? Like just
because they got caught.
Yeah. So when you catch them, they're going to go, yeah, I did it. Like the woman, you said who wrote the note.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Unless they're a serial embezzler and they've gotten away with it before, they're a little craftier. But the person who's been good their whole entire life, starts embezzling, gets caught, generally they're going to confess. But say you ask them, well, how much did you steal? And they say $100,000. Take whatever number they give you and multiply it between 2 and 6 times. And that's the real number.
So that's what's happening. So that's what's happening with his wife, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly the case there.
I go to Nordstrom's anniversary sale. I come home with some nice shoes and my husband's like, oh, those are nice. What are they? Whatever it is, I round it down. So say it's 295. I say it's, 195. And so when they start stealing, they round down. And
interesting.
Rita Crunwell, who stole $53.7 million from the town of Dixon, Illinois, where Ronald Reagan was born. She stole $53 million. When she was caught and the FBI interviewed her, she sang like a canary for an hour and a half. And guess what number she said she stole?
What? 5?
$1 million.
10 million. She stole 53.7. She fits right in my numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
She stole 53
Wait,
million.
And you said this happened when Ronald Reagan was born? So
No, the town
she was born in the
Ronald
town.
Reagan
Oh, okay,
born.
the town.
How long? Just recently. She got busted in 2012. She stole for almost 20 years.
So was she still living in the same neighborhood, in the same city, in the same house after embezzling like that?
No, she's living in the big house.
Well, I'm saying before.
Yeah, she's living in the big house. She actually moved into her parents' home and remodeled it. But Rita's thing was she was an equestrian. She was the American quarter horse champion for like 8 times. She had by the time she got caught and she forfeited, all of her stuff, the marshals had to sell 400 horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
400 horses.
She was one of the top quarter horse breeders in the country. And that's where her money went. That's why horses are expensive. Horses are a pink flag. I don't have red flags. I have pink flags.
Okay, so I was going to ask you the person that the biggest crime. So is that probably the biggest crime that you've ever been a part of or privy to?
Well, so I have this thing on my website, pinkcollarcrime.com. You can do a free download. It's the top 5 pink collar criminals. She's number 1, but just barely. And these are all women.
Just barely?
Then, yeah. So there was another woman who stole, if you move, time value of money up, out of DC. She stole close to the same amount.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
So let me ask you this. I mean, that kind of blows my mind. What is the hardest part about your job? The women, I mean, I just can't even imagine this.
So the hardest part is, for me personally, is the victims because they're devastated.
Yes.
They are truly devastated because these people have worked with them day in and day out for sometimes decades. And they basically lied to them day in and day out for decades. And it causes all sorts of stuff in your mind, like, how did I not see that? You know,
Right.
why did I let this happen? You question everything. So I had a consulting gig recently where the woman found me who got ripped off, and it's in process, so I can't say a lot, but she said, she called me on the phone and she started crying. And the reason she started crying, she was reading a blog post of mine that you need a therapist. And I'm not a therapist. I should become a therapist because I do a lot of therapy when this happens.
Sure.
But she had been telling her husband for months that she needed a therapist. And he kind of like brushed it off. But when she saw it on my blog post about needing a therapist, she broke down because she's like, and she does have a therapist now. And I've told her it's the best money spent. The money you spend on attorneys, not the best money spent. The money spent on a therapist. And I got this from the wife of the dentist who got ripped off $1 million. She told me in her marriage, it was the hardest thing they had ever gone through as a couple was this theft.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And I would imagine, I guess, thinking about therapy, because I would imagine these individuals would probably start to question everyone else that they know in their life and probably have trust issues for the rest of their lives.
Yep. They don't forget it. I have a friend whose husband, as a child, his dad owned an electric business and he got remarried. And the second wife had a shopping habit and she took all their tax money that was for the business and went shopping. And so he had to sell, he obviously got divorced, sold the business or sold their house, and they had to move with 4 boys into a small apartment. And my friend's husband was young at the time, and he said it was so embarrassing. He's never forgotten it. I mean, I met him, 25 years after it happened. One of the first things he told me, you don't forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just staying there right in the forefront of your mind. You can't trust anyone at this point in time.
Right.
And then I can only imagine if it is family, because I had a couple of businesses that family ran, and fortunately, I never had any of those issues, but I can just only imagine what if that were my mom who was running my businesses?
Yeah.
Do you often run into that with the family members?
I've seen it. There's a great case it's Vail or Aspen. I think it's Vail. And it was a doctor. She hired her sister to run the business, her medical practice. And she stole, I think it was over $500,000 from the sister. And she went and did plastic surgery. I think she had horses for her daughter. And there's the fraud triangle. And the fraud triangle is opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. The only thing you can control for is opportunity, because Stormie, you could decide you want to pay Deborah $1 million a year, and she deserves it. Let's just say she deserves it.
I do. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, interview's over.
And, but say she's got a $2 million lifestyle. You can't control her pressure and her rationalization. You can only control the opportunity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement.
But now if you have a cruddy tone at the top as a business owner, I'm never going to say that anyone deserves to be ripped off. But if your employees see that, you're taking the family on vacations and you come back and you write the whole trip off, you're paying your kid's car through the business who doesn't work there, you're doing some unethical sort of things, your employees notice. They pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, never, ever a reason to rip someone off. And realistically, the owner of the business isn't going to jail. You're going to go to jail. You could scream all you wanted at the judge, but he stole more. And the judge is going to say,
that's for another case.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, it would never justify that. But I was doing a podcast last week, and I've done several recently. And so that's why I was looking forward to you guys, because I knew you guys would be so, so much fun.
Thank you.
She's a data scientist, and she went into a business. The guy was worried about, money. And she goes, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And he said, oh, don't even look at her work. She's too dumb to steal from me.
Whoa. Ouch.
Yeah. At that point, I might want to pull her to the side and say, steal all you want.
You're right.
Idiot.
Wow.
So, it doesn't make any difference if you're up here on the org chart and she or he is down here. That's not a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of life.
Mm. So say if someone,
wait, I'm in real trouble now.
You're in real trouble. Yeah, yeah.
Because I make a habit to hire everyone who's smarter than me.
But Kelly, that's not hard to do in his case. That is not hard to do to find people smarter than him. So say for example, anyone listening to this or watching this, they are thinking, some of the numbers don't seem right here. Something seems to be happening. Would they hire someone like you, or what would their next steps be? How do they start to uncover this?
Yeah. So tips are what find fraud.
Tips.
And it's not audits. Audits are a sampling. I mean, audits will find fraud, but it's a sampling. They test. So they don't look at every sort of transaction. If you think that you're getting ripped off, you're going to want to reach out to a forensic accountant. I'm not a CPA, but I know where to look because I've been on both sides of the game. Mm-hmm. So I kind of know where to look. And when I need someone that has I need data experience, I pull someone in. But if you think something strange is happening, then you want to start digging. And there are a ton of resources out there. But one of the things is your vendors. You pay every vendor on day 28. But one vendor always gets paid on day 4. Why is that?
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting.
Or one vendor always gets paid on a Saturday or a Sunday or at 11 p.m. at night. I mean, we have such amazing technology. You dump the software into, Excel or whatever version you have, and you see anomalies. And it's I had a dentist recently, all the sort of cash adjustments, deletions, happened between 8 and 11 at night. There was no one in his office between 8 and 11 at night except for his now ex-wife.
Oh,
wow.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 Huh.
That'll do it.
Interesting. That's very, very interesting. So the steps that you said tips. What does that mean? Dig into that, if you will, a little deeper on the tips. What do you mean by that?
So one of the things is mail your bank statements home.
Okay.
And
not to the office.
Bank statement shouldn't go to the office because who opens them at the office? Do you open your own mail? No, probably someone lower level does. Mm-hmm. There's a guy, Tom Hughes, who was a serial embezzler, and I've become acquainted with him. And he's a pink collar criminal through and through. And his thing was 6 weeks. If he didn't see the business owner open their bank account for 6 weeks, which was 1.5 business cycles, he knew he could steal. Because if they had just come in with the envelope open, never pulled it out, I wouldn't have considered stealing from them. Wow. So mail your bank statements home. These days with, PDF and Adobe, you can make any bank statement look like $1 million.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
Right. So it may
so
not
what do they do? I guess they just change it around
and
they give them a new bank statement?
Oh, yeah. And they don't do a very good job a lot of the times. They cut and paste. The woman who just got ripped off $500,000, once she realized it, she went in and she looked at every check and every bank statement, and she's like, oh my God, they're terrible. But so a lot of people look at their bank statements online, but do you click on the check? No, you just see, okay, I paid that bill for $2,500. Click on the check. Does it say ABC Company or does it say Lisa Thief?
Wow.
Yeah.
So just because it may be the same dollar amount doesn't mean that it was made out to the correct payee.
Person. Interesting.
Payee.
Wow. So
I did have a woman who stole $250,000. You're going to like this, Stormie, from urologists. And she's reached out to me, and I've talked to her numerous times. She did a presentation with me. So the first time she stole, it was an $8,000 insurance check. But every time afterwards, she would write a check for, ABC Company. And she'd put it into the billing program. and then she'd actually make the check out to herself. Now, the chief urologist would meet with his CPA every Friday in his office where Lisa was. Not once did they pull a check. If they had pulled one check, literally, they could have gone and strangled her right then and there.
Wow.
They just downloaded it. They never checked a check. That's why I say it's not rocket scientists. I can match an invoice with a check.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, but people don't do it.
Okay, you just said something that maybe I caught this wrong. Did you say that this same woman spoke with you?
Oh my God, it was so fun. It was so fun.
Pray tell.
Yeah. So I did a presentation for the Portland Institute of Internal Auditors, and Lisa said she would like to do a presentation with me. And so I was doing a whole day, and they had a lunch special. And I said, you want to come talk at lunch with me? Oh, yeah. And I said, are you sure? Oh, yeah. Well, 2 days before the presentation, and they have all these people coming to lunch, because who gets to see a pink-collar criminal give it up?
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So they like sell out the lunch. Sunday, the meeting's on Tuesday. Sunday comes, she texts me, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I'm like, what? And I'm like texting, and she's like, I think I have a root canal. I'm like, then go to the dentist, you know? And she goes to the dentist, and she comes back and she says, no, it's not a root canal. It's a sinus infection. And I said, I want to see blood. You need to come. Like, if there's no blood, you're going to be there.
Absolutely.
And meanwhile, I'm reaching out to my law enforcement friends, and they're like, these people are flakes. They're not going to come and be grilled by a bunch of, auditors. So I start the class on Tuesday, and I've texted her. I'm like, you better be here, or basically you're dead to me. And I do know how to kill. So, yeah.
A chick with a gun, yeah.
So Tuesday, I start the class from 8. It's 11:30. I'm looking at my phone, no message. 11:45, she says, I'm here. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, everything. She came in, and she did a fantastic job. She was open. She was honest. They asked her hard questions, but I mean, again, they were shocked when they're like, well, so how'd you do it? And she goes, I wrote a check to myself, and I coded it in the system differently. And they never once looked at it. She had quit the job. It took them like 18 months after she left for them to realize she had stolen.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So she was already gone. She didn't get caught while she was there at the job.
No.
Oh, so it comes and follows you. Because I always wonder, why don't they just leave? Take your money and run. So she took her money and ran, but they still caught her.
Yeah, they caught her eventually. And the cop calls, and he said, so do you know why I'm calling? She's like, yeah, pretty good idea.
Wow.
But that's the other thing. She was kind of physically sick, because can you imagine, just say you're stealing. Every time your boss calls you or texts you, you're like, oh, did they catch me? Oh, I mean,
right.
Stress. They get sick, and that's why they confess, because it's just like, I've been caught, gig is up, I might as well come clean.
Time to take a vacation.
Right.
Yeah, to the big house.
Exactly, to the big house, vacation. So is that considered a white collar crime, or is that like a Fed time, or is that like street time? I don't know if you know what I mean by the difference in there. Street time, when you go, the drug dealer, the slinger, they go to do street time, and that's a whole different organization than Fed time, Club Fed.
So it really depends on where you are. Mm-hmm. So like you could steal $200,000 in some states and you can get 20 years. You can steal $200,000 in some cities and you get, as I call it, Zoodoo, where you have to do community service on the weekends.
Wait a second.
Stormie
You can steal $200,000 in some places and your penalty is community service?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
First time offender, your mom, you got kids, Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I had a woman who stole $450,000, a young woman, and she decided that she was going to let the judge sentence her. And she had no criminal history, like documented, but I know she stole before because she stole so quickly when she got to the business. Yeah. I mean, if someone starts stealing, I say within 6 months of starting a job, they've stolen before. They just may have not been caught.
Okay.
So this woman had no criminal history. She and her attorney and the prosecutor, they had an agreement between I think it was between 18 and 30 months, but the guidelines were much higher. And so her ex-husband shows up at court and he makes a statement and he tells the judge that he shares custody with their child and she gets the kid on weekends. And every time the kid comes back, he has to literally reparent the kid because the kid is so used to the mom buying him stuff. And, and you could see the judge visibly change. He gave her, it was either 78 or 84 months. Both attorneys, the prosecutor and the defense, jaw dropped. She should have never let the judge sentence her. But she thought the judge was going to look at her as a nice, cute young woman with a little kid. Well, the judge, when he heard the victim statement of her ex-husband, he threw the book at her.
Wow.
Yeah.
If I was the judge and Deborah, you were in front of me, I'd throw the book at you too. Just saying. Just saying.
You can't read it, so you might as well throw it.
A speeding ticket?
You can't read, so what else would you do with a book? Hello?
Guess you got a good point there.
Yeah, there you go. So now, who do you think is an embezzler? So we've got this wonderful business now. We're hiring. We're building a phenomenal team. How do we spot this embezzler? Who could be an embezzler?
You.
Besides me, of course.
You know what? I'm not going to say anyone can be an embezzler, but it's the employee that, like you said, control issues. They don't want to give up any of their responsibilities. They don't take vacations. You call them in the medical industry, they kind of call them the day wife. They're there all the time. They're your right arm. They're not your right hand. They're your right arm.
Wow.
So yeah, they don't take vacations. I mean, I had one dentist and when she got ripped off, we looked to see when her office manager was, in the office and when she wasn't. And we did it via key card. Out of 6.5 years, she only took a day and a half off of vacation. And the dentist is so sweet. She's like, I knew she was dedicated. I'm like, she's not dedicated. She's covering her tracks. So,
CYA, cover your assets.
Yeah. So she, they need vacations. There's this new term called microcations where you only take 2 or 3 days at a time.
Right.
You need a full week. And none of this, I'll just catch up when I get back. You want other people to see their work. I just had a friend who had a business and they looked after they fired someone and there were checks in her desk that she hadn't cashed already. She was getting ready to cash them.
But they weren't her paycheck.
You on the desk, go through the desk. Honestly, it's your desk. Yeah.
But these checks were not her paychecks. These were checks that she was defrauding the company with.
Yeah. And she had them all set, ready to go, So, I mean, I meet so many business owners, and when they find out what I do, immediately they say, I sign my own checks, I'm good. And
right. You would think so, right?
Yeah, I know. So I had a woman.
So wait a second. Even when a business owner is signing their own checks, they're...
the banks actually look at your signature.
Oh,
I guess you have a point,
got
right?
a point, right?
Especially if you put it in a deposit with other things that you have, and it's just going to run through the ATM machine.
Interesting.
Exactly.
The woman who stole $1 million from the dentist, we had, because I worked for the sheriff's office, we had video of her going into the teller, depositing, say, 8 checks for the dentist. She'd walk out of the bank, she'd hit the ATM, and she'd deposit 2 to her account. Yeah.
Wow.
Because no one looks at the ATMs. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you have an employee that gets garnished, or, say they are married filing 0 and all of a sudden they go single filing 10. That's a cash flow issue. That doesn't mean they're going to steal. That just means maybe you pay a little closer attention if they're handling money.
Right.
I mean, I have another friend who had a manufacturing company. She goes, I get garnishments all day long for child support. Or I said, do those employees touch money? She said, no. I said, then don't worry. I said, now your office staff, those employees gets garnishments or judgments. You need to be careful.
Interesting.
Now, would you be concerned if you had products or something that they could take if they
and
weren't? And say that they weren't connected in any way in the office, the administrative staff, but if they were in an area where
like inventory.
Inventory.
I mean the warehouse.
Yeah, the warehouse or something.
And I've got a store on
Now,
eBay or Amazon.
Is that considered the same thing as embezzlement when they take the products out of or is that just theft?
It's just theft, but I mean it's money out
right,
of your
of course.
pocket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did a thing on LinkedIn a while ago. I love LinkedIn, and I did a contest called Stump the Embezzlement Jock. And yeah, I know, crazy, but I got to make fraud fun.
That's it. Make fraud fun.
So I said, name an industry that hasn't been embezzled. The only industry that won the contest, which was a push, was snake wrangling. Because I couldn't find an association. But I had like circus, trapeze artists. Oh yeah, they've been ripped off. It took me less than 5 minutes. And I probably had 30 different industries. It took me less than 5 minutes. Snake wrangling, an attorney put in. And I'm like, really? Only an attorney would put that in.
Right.
But yeah, people have optimism bias. They think you hire good people, you pay them well. Why would they steal from you? But And again, we all think we're smart. And
so these aren't necessarily bad people per se. It sounds like you're talking about people, the way that we're watching them based upon their habits, their needs, an urgency that they may have, things like that.
Well, it's kind of interesting. When Kelly was bringing up the gambling, or let's say the horses, I've got a friend of mine that gets a horse, and I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful horse. I want a horse, but I can't afford one. Well, let me steal a little money. They won't miss it. And now I've got a horse. Well, now I've got this horse. I want 2 horses because my buddy has got 3 horses. And as that buddy, who's probably ripping off a different company, is increasing their horse collection, I've got to increase my horse collection. Well, now I need a Range Rover to pull the horse trailer.
Yeah.
Stormie knows a lot of criminals, huh?
You got the FOMO and the,
Yes.
YOLO. And I love social media. And I can't tell you, go on Facebook and I see some of these people, I rented a Ferrari to go to the NC2A, finals. Yeah, she was stealing. Yeah, she worked for an accounting company and probably made $45,000 a year, and she's literally renting a Ferrari and going to the NCAA finals.
Right.
It's a clue. Yeah.
All the things that you look for. So you're surrounded. Now, let me ask you, has it made you paranoid?
I do all the books in my house. My husband, if I get hit by a bus, I've told my husband to call our stockbroker and she can piece it together, but he has no hope. He has no interest. He's a professor. And as long as he can, go out to dinner once in a while, go on a nice trip once in a while, he literally doesn't have a clue.
That's it. Ladies, did you hear what she just said? You may not be in control of the books, but know what the hell is happening with the books in your household. I'm just going to say that. I'm finished my rant. Continue.
So you know what? There's a great woman whose husband embezzled a couple $1 million, and she's started the White Collar Wives Club. So it's women
Interesting.
whose husbands who have committed white collar crime and have gone to prison, and their lives have been completely upended.
Right.
And she's got a support group. She speaks on it. She's written a book because, think of in the old times, my dad did the books. I remember my dad coming home. He would cover up the number on his, tax return and tell her to sign it.
Really?
Or he would cover the number?
Up?
Yeah, I kind of do that with my husband.
Ooh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to see how that goes.
Good luck. Stormie's wife is smarter than him. That'll never work. That'll never fly with Sandra.
But later when I asked my dad that, he goes, you know what? Your mom has not a clue. She'd see the number and she wouldn't know what that means. She didn't know what the monthly nut was. And there's, taxes and deductions and things like that. I mean, it's offensive now, but thankfully my dad didn't commit a crime. But if he would have, my mom signed his tax returns not knowing what was on them.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
This was some really, really cool stuff we got today.
That was, definitely. And for businesses to start being aware of what's happening with the people in your office, stop closing that daggone door, the executive door, and not seeing what's happening within your business.
Yeah, now
that's kind of a first start, is to open that door. Stop separating yourself from your team and from your staff and from those buildings. Understand what's happening.
And I just want to share with the audience, our guest today, Kelly, we've got, she's the real deal. I believe, next month they're bringing you out to Mexico City to speak on this topic. Is that next month?
It's November. Yeah.
November.
Yep.
And then traveling to San Diego, and then not too long after that, Australia. I mean, you're just traveling all around the world speaking on this topic.
Yeah. Someone called me just a couple of weeks ago to do a gig in October, and I was already booked. And she goes, we've heard about you for a couple of years. And I said, well, I can do it next year, and I'll do it next year. And she goes, but is there anyone who does this, like pink collar crime? I'm like, no. I go, I'm not like bragging or anything. It's like, I am literally the only crazy person who does this.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just like I said when I introduced you, a baller. You are you are a baller, a shot caller. You created a niche for yourself and built a. Go ahead.
I got the domain name in 2010. I spoke on it for a while. And Stormie, you can appreciate this. The NSA, National Speakers Association, they've changed my life. I went and I worked for Nike for about a year and a half, and then that ended. And when that ended, I'm like, what am I going to do? And the NSA, I'd been to events, and I'm like, I can make a living speaking and training on this. And it's gone like this. And it's all thanks to the speaker NSA.
Wow, that is awesome.
So would you say that you built your business around something that has now become a passion?
Absolutely.
Well, she's dreaming about embezzlement.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's the first thing. Yeah, she's got her Google alerts. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got Google alerts and dreamings. I would love to be the person sitting on the other end of the couch. Tell me more about that dream, because I think each dream could be just like another hit movie.
It's always interesting when you're in a field that you surround yourself with what most people. Well, this is obviously the negative, but. For people who deal with death and people who deal with, crime and things like that, it's often one of the things that we wonder, or something that we often wonder, is that how do you stay in a positive, productive state? I mean, you've got this great smile on your face. You've got a great personality. I mean, you obviously had something in you of kindness, because you spoke to Stormie standing in line. So you must have. How do you keep this spirit up with all of this negativity around you?
What's really interesting is I say that there are a lot of times I'd rather go out to happy hour with a pink collar criminal than some people I've worked with.
Ooh, I feel that way after every podcast.
And the reason I say that is I know that they have stolen. And so I know to watch my purse. I've worked with people who have stuck it in my back.
Yep.
And I never thought a coworker would do that. Mm-hmm. You know what? I can't wake up every day and not feel good about life. And I worked with a detective one time, and she arrested this amazing mom who stole from her kid's school. She said it was one of the hardest days she ever had as a cop, was arresting this woman. These aren't bad people. They are people that have made a bad decision.
Right.
That's a very good point.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
And you get them at their worst.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you really get them at their worst. All you can do is help them. I do criminal defense work, and it's some of the best work I've ever done, because if they've stolen, which most of the time they have, you just get the best deal you can and get on with your life.
Wow. Right. Kelly, we're just about out of time, but if someone wants to find out more about you, it sounds like you produce a regular blog post. Is that correct?
I don't know
Or
if
news-
it's regular. I'm on
Okay.
LinkedIn regularly.
Okay.
And then yeah.
So if someone, they're like, wow, this was incredible, I want to hear more from Kelly, will you share with the audience how they can find out more about you, the best places to track you down?
Sure. So I'm on pinkcollarcrime.com. I also have kellypaxton.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kelly Paxton, I think. And I'm on Twitter. So I am PDXCFE. And I tweet stories. And, I try to make fraud fun because it's a depressing topic. And at the end of the day, you can't just crawl in a cave.
Have you ever thought about teaching this to individuals that may want to take the same road along with you?
I mentor a lot of people,
Nice.
a lot of people who they're kind of shocked that I've made a career out of this, but it's like, they find me and I'm happy to help. I'm just, it makes no sense to hide or to keep all your sources like this.
Absolutely.
We've got to spread the word.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. We fully agree. Yeah.
Yeah, can you believe an hour has already gone by?
No.
Can you believe that? That's crazy. We could have sat here for another 2 or 3 hours because I was enjoying. This was just incredible.
And I'm sure we were just barely touching the surface.
Absolutely.
And as your book comes out, how about this? So as that book comes out, we're going to
Bring you back on the show.
Let us know, and we'll bring you back on the show.
And I'm still rooting for.
I can tell you the title.
Yes.
Yes,
and I'm rooting for.
title.
I'm rooting for Making Fraud Fun. I love that. But I can't wait to hear the title. And for those of you that are watching this show on Facebook, if you like what you heard today, you may want to check out some of our other episodes. And the best way to do it is to track us down wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, whatever. Just look for Powerhouse Experts, because today you absolutely 100% heard a bona fide powerhouse expert.
Bona fide.
Bona fide,
In every
absolutely.
way.
And what helps us help you is subscribing to the show, rating and reviewing an episodes that you listen to. And when you rate and review, as always, I encourage people to give me 5 stars on my performance, give our guests 5 stars on their performance, and not so much for our co-host, Deborah. But that helps us help you by bringing incredible guests, just like we did today with Kelly. And this was just an incredible show. I learned so much. This was absolutely awesome. But we've got to bring it to an end, that sucks. But
so sad.
It is what it is.
But thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing, authentically and some stories that, may be more personal to you or to individuals. As you said, you get to know some of these people, but we do thank you so much for sharing them. And hopefully they will help another business owner to see something that's happening before it gets to high 5 and 6 or even 7 figures within their business.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. This was just serendipity that we met, and you had an amazing session.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
He didn't have a very good session, but we appreciate you, Sonia.
No,
Thanks.
you did.
Thanks so much, Kelly, for your time, and we will see all of you on our next
Powerhouse Experts.
next episode. Bye-bye.